let's start off with a quote here from Denzel Washington. Okay, something to ponder before we dive in. He goes, "We have to ask ourselves, what are the long-term, if not short-term effects of too much information? Are you using your device, or is your device using you? Can you put it down? Can you turn it off?" Powerful. I'm your host, Jacob Smith, and this is Observant Attention. Welcome to part 2 of 4 of Generation Anxiety. My goal for part 1 was to open minds to the underlying truth of what stress can do when we spend too much time fearing the outside world, the world around us. The traditional way of how life should be lived, especially in Western culture, has been primarily driven by fear. And I've always felt it was unacceptable, but now we're letting it control our entire personality. We're slowly and gradually adapting and accepting a way of life solely motivated by it. Doing a job we hate out of the fear of making enough money, or dating somebody we don't enjoy out of the fear of spending it alone. Many, if not all of our decisions are run by fear, even if it's subconscious, even if it's underlying. And I felt like bringing that to light may help us see the alternative, which is understanding it's all about where we are placing our attention, our energy, and how important that is. Today's going to piggyback off that with regards to attention. We're going to dissect the result of information overload. What are the long and short-term effects of too much information, and what's happening with our attention span? We are bombarded with information. Our brains are running at rampant paces. Last season, I gave the example of the car in first gear on the freeway when he has his foot fully down on the gas and it's going 9,000, 10,000 RPMs. Eventually, we burn out and we essentially become numb to all of it. As Huxley said, the truth is then being drowned in a sea of irrelevance. And even if we wanted to learn, who do we turn to? Who can we trust? Where do we start? So, anyways, I want to begin today with 2 words. Attention economy. Everybody is fighting for your attention. We live in an age where marketing is everything. It's not the product or service anymore, it's the brand. It's how the brand makes you feel. So you can give your attention to it based on the bottom line, which is profit. So just take a second and think about your everyday. Every single decision is based on where you feel most comfortable placing your attention. And yes, that means brushing your teeth twice a day. And yes, that means what you had for breakfast. How about what you're doing with your attention during your free time? What are you doing to justify your procrastination? We've become numb to it because our attention is constantly being misused, without even consciously being aware of it. Because it's just what everyone does, right? Now, what are the long and short-term effects of that? Well, first, do you understand how valuable your attention is? Do we ever learn that where we place our attention is where all of our energy goes toward, and that is the energy that manifests our reality? Time for a little introspection, a quick mirror check, right? Where am I placing my attention? Am I utilizing it efficiently throughout the day in each unique moment, or do I feel controlled by it? Because I promise you, it all comes down to the conditioning of your past. What you are willing to accept right now is a combination of everything you've learned to accept in the past. Combine that with those underlying reasons, and I know you can name a few by now, and we now have allowed our attention to become numb to every single piece of information that comes our way. So the only time we're able to really profoundly shift our perspective or detach from our beliefs or relieve ourselves from this monotonous routine we've got stuck in is in 2 spaces: inspiration and desperation. We literally cannot overcome anything in our lives without an underlying requirement to do so. We have to focus 100% of our attention on it Otherwise, it slips through the knowledge cracks in one ear, out the other, and quickly becomes a forgotten memory. And there goes all desire to learn, all open-mindedness, all the curiosity. So are we using our devices, or are they using us? Let's find out. What's the name of that actor there, that movie? What's that word I'm looking for? The rhymes with... what's that quote there by what's-his-face? You know, the singer there. Boom. Phone. And sure, it starts out like as a convenience. That's how everything starts out, right? But eventually we lose the requirement to think at all without even realizing it. So then when we can't pull up a thought right away, we immediately turn to our devices to think for us without even giving ourselves a chance. And eventually, just like anything, this becomes habit. And now we've totally lost all sense of individual thought. We can't expand on conversations, we can't ask questions or answer them intellectually, because who needs to? Who needs to think when you have something that will very easily and quite conveniently do it for us, right? So, quick example, but proof nevertheless. So now we've established this tool thinks for us. How about this one? First thing that pops into your head, okay? Don't lie. First thing. What's the first thing you do when you're bored? I guarantee you, 99% of us thought of something time-wasting. Grab my phone, Netflix, video games, and if you thought read, is that really what you do when you're bored? Or is that what you do when you're inspired? If you do it when you're bored, hey, you're ahead of the game. And let's be honest with ourselves here, the answer is actually grab our phones. Because unless it's on the charger, it's almost always within an arm's length and is the quickest and easiest way to disconnect from all of our unwanted emotions, in order to recreate the artificial ones we have become addicted to. So we've established it thinks for us. And we just established it feels for us too. It gives us that instant gratification we require, the quickest way to a dopamine hit, like a drug addict, except this is socially acceptable. But neurologically, biologically, it's the exact same. We do it so often that as soon as an unwanted thought or emotion arises, we narrow our focus on the quickest way to get it. Just like our requirement for coffee in the morning or a heroin addict's next fix. The world around doesn't matter until we satisfy that need. Point is, where's our attention going? Answer, nowhere. It might as well be thrown out. Sure, sometimes it's good to disconnect, but how often does self-discipline allow it to be a sometimes? Listen, if you don't like what I'm saying, I'm not offended. But I know the truth. I've seen the truth in my own life. You don't think I get lost in social media for way too long? You don't think I procrastinate? Fuck, I had to put a limit on my apps because it's meant to be addicting. This is an attention economy where everyone is essentially hypnotized by the world around them because our attention is so valuable, and businesses know this. They've figured it out. But it's especially valuable for you once you realize this, once you can regain it and use it as you please, in order to give you the capacity to do nothing. Because if we were able to just do nothing, no thoughts, no feelings, imagine the peace that would then bring. Imagine you could shut off your thought and emotions for 10 seconds. If I said I could snap my fingers and you don't have to think or feel for 10 seconds, you would pay for that commodity sometimes. Well, I'm here to tell you that we have a capacity to do it. And step one is realizing it. Seems like a waste of time. No, false. What a waste of time it is to scroll mindlessly. What a waste of time it is to scroll mindlessly, realize we're scrolling mindlessly and staying ignorant to it and go, nah, whatever. We have no idea how important our attention is and how using our attention for zero prerogative can benefit us. So here's just a few to give you an example. Clarity of mind, mental relaxation, tapping into and connecting with your intuition. How about discovering yourself and not the ego, not the identity of you, not who you think you are, but who you actually are. Peace of mind, mental and physical calmness, stability, consistency. What about realizing that your ego is just a social construct that you've been conditioned into believing in? And placing your attention on the moment allows your ego to become objectified. And then that awareness then allows you to view you from a higher level of mind to show you that the identity of you is the reason for all of your suffering. Our attention is on everything except ourselves, which leads us to believe that we have to be this or we have to do that. Then we feel this extraordinary loss of control because there's too much of our attention span to embrace, so we don't embrace any of it. And that leads to procrastination, and that leads to loss of motivation. Because what's the point of doing anything if there's too much to do? Or what's the point of doing anything if we're just going to keep doing the same shit over and over again? Our attention span is becoming shorter and shorter and shorter. I recently discovered TikTok, right? Told you guys this. Although you can find some great content on there. Not saying it's all bad. Nothing's all bad. It's up to the perceiver. Nevertheless, we are consuming 50, 100 videos a day, a sitting, 200. Like, what's the underlying purpose of that? Who's genuinely benefiting? Is it the consumer? Are you benefiting? I don't even think the creators are benefiting at this point because they have this center their lives around marketing videos that are fleeting and forgotten about in 5 seconds anyways. And to add to that, they now have a social validation standard to uphold. It's this cutthroat cycle that doesn't give a fuck about anybody's emotions. It only cares about our attention. 10, 15, 20 years ago, information stimulated thought. Now information is only consumed without conscious observation. It's not properly contemplated, and definitely rarely stimulates thought. So what used to form new neural pathways or connections in the brain to create inspired ideas and to evolve our behaviors and emotions and thoughts and overall personality now is like a greedy, spoiled rich kid who has had everything he's ever wanted and is still looking for more. And guess what? That comes through in our mental health. We hate being in the moment. We feel this extraordinary loss of control of our thoughts and emotions. The technology causes our attention span's default state to be boredom. We either can't pay attention to the conversation because we're thinking of what we're going to have for dinner or God knows what, and we can't just sit and watch TV because we haven't touched our phone in 90 seconds. Think about how much information we receive and what we actually do with it, because that is the reason for this uncomfortability. Why we can't overcome ourselves, our emotions, and our thoughts. We have gotten lazy and complacent with the standard of life we are willing to accept. And then we sit and complain about the mental health issues it causes. Well, no fucking shit. We're human beings, which means we gotta wake up to the truth of our being, not the mindless acts of our everyday doing. With access to unlimited information, the ignorance to this truth, to these truths, are a choice. There's ways to overcome all of this. Actually, it's quite simple. But we choose to stay ignorant to it and convince ourselves it's too difficult. We have to be willing to first be aware of this and acknowledge the root of the issue so we can accept it as a problem, to make conscious steps in order to overcome it. We are so distracted now. It has almost become uncomfortable to maintain eye contact during conversations. To hear every single word someone is speaking to you without getting distracted or trying to figure out how you're going to respond, or with getting distracted about how you're going to respond. When was the last time you saw someone just sit and wait for something? Information overload has forced us to master the art of distraction, which has led to impatience, which leads to ADHD and other focused issues. And now all of a sudden, it's impossible to sit still because we literally can't. We've programmed the system to be incapable of it. Want to know another consequence of information overload? I call it the expectation epidemic, based on what we see on social media. Because why would anyone post their lows, their failures? We only see successes in the edited photos and the best clips that feed the ego. No one talks about the tribulations. Do you know how many ups and downs I've gone through just to get here? Our perception is perfection. Even if we think it's not. We still see that it is, and our brains can never really differentiate what we're staring at. It doesn't know good or bad. It just knows what you expose your attention to. Now we have this egotistical complex of comparison. Now we have a shitty attention span. We have no self-discipline. And then we continue to reiterate thoughts of self-doubt and insecurities because of all this. And then we start thinking about what other people think of us. And then this becomes our unconscious way of life. All based on where we've been placing our attention. My cousin, who's a teacher at West, told me kids don't even want to game anymore at young ages. They don't even want to play sports because they know they're not as good as the Twitch streamers or the guys they see on TV. I also had a convo with a psychotherapist about this. She said it comes down to comparison because all we see, all we're exposed to is perfection. And that turns people into perfectionists. And then that compounds on stress. Why do we care so much about what other people are doing? Truth is, we don't. We really don't, but we tell ourselves we do because we unconsciously relate it to our lives somehow for no reason. And that's the ego actually doing it for you. Your programming of the past doing it for you. That's why there's only a few people you can really tell your successes to that will genuinely be proud of you. It's an unconscious response of comparison of the ego. But anyways, awareness first, but let's close this off with attention and a little positivity. I hate coming after you guys. Preaching about fear, yet I'm scaring you. Once you're able to observe where you are placing your attention, that is the moment it loses its power over you. If you're placing your attention on negative thoughts to give them life, then that is how your reality will manifest itself. That is how you will perceive it. And that will be your energetic vibration, your state of being. Once you become aware of this simple process, you can choose where your attention goes and focus on exactly what you need in order to get exactly what you want. The basis of our being is thought and emotion, but they both begin with where you're placing your attention. For example, tuning into the moment and feeling gratitude produces serotonin, which upregulates hormones and ultimately makes you a happier person. That's why they say practice gratitude. We must understand that it's a birthright to intervene in our own feelings and thoughts, in our own actions. Therefore, control your attention Control your emotions. Control your emotions, control your thoughts, and your life will be whatever you want it to. So next episode, we're going to be touching on The Social Dilemma. I don't know if you guys have seen that. It's on Netflix. Definitely go check it out. And we're just going to kind of dissect some things that relate to what we're talking about in the attention span and the information overload. I might have already taken some of my points out of the movie, but we're going to summarize it next episode. Okay. Oh, a little over time here. But anyways, if we become aware of this, and this is why I'm preaching it, then it loses its power, right? Awareness is the key to ignorance. If that makes sense. And if we don't become aware of this, or nobody ever talks about it, and it's all rainbows and fairies, then it will continue to be an issue. It will always be an issue because we won't learn otherwise. We won't know otherwise. If you felt at all impacted by today's information, please go rate, review, subscribe, download these episodes, as that 2-second gesture means the world to this information. Trust me, it really does. Also on social media, Facebook not so much, but the other ones. And if you want to go interact, if you want to see some extra videos, or if you just have an opinion, I love to hear them. So feel free to reach out. Anyways, remember, life is that simple. Okay? Thanks for listening. Stay inspired.